Introducing Minor Wisdom Quintet.
One, two, a skidda-didda-doo.
Minor Wisdom.
R.I.P. DMX. R.I.P. DMX. DMX was one of my favorite rappers. I know I might not come across as the most hip-hop oriented individual, but I do like hip-hop, and especially old school hip-hop. I don't like the new stuff. But anyway, R.I.P. to DMX, also one of the best rappers for lighting designers to honor in the world of lighting design, because, well, his name was DMX. So to all my dogs out there that are mourning DMX's loss, I am with you on that one. But that one hit me a little hard, seeing him pass away, starting off with a negative here. But anyway, this week, I don't have a lot to discuss. This week, I've got Larry Balfe on. This was a really fun, nice interview. It was very real. It was very genuine. Got emotional at times, actually. And I welcome that. I'm not saying that makes it better or worse, but the candidness, if you will, I really just appreciated it. So I wanted to thank him for coming on. It was just a really just genuine interview. Not to say that the other ones haven't been, but I think with previous interviewees, or a lot of previous interviewees, everybody kind of goes into these podcast interviews not really knowing what to expect. And, 30 minutes later, or 20 minutes later, you kind of, for those of you that have listened to all the episodes, you can kind of hear when somebody switches that, oh, this is just a conversation. This is we're just hanging out. And that's exactly what I want it to be. That's 100% what I want it to be. Larry didn't struggle with that concept. It was immediately just kind of hanging out. I mean, we go off on, we talk a little bit about cheese. I don't remember if we talked about baseball at all, but I know he mentioned wanting to talk more about baseball and things like that. Off the record, I think he mentioned that. But so it was just a conversation from the beginning. And Larry is in Chicago, but he's a Texas theater educator and still comes down here to adjudicate and work for one act play, or during the one act play season and stuff like that. So he's still very active in Texas, but he doesn't currently live right now in Texas, or at least this interview wasn't while he was in Texas. So that is kind of unique and kind of fun, and also a little envious. Like, girl, you're living in Chicago while doing stuff like in other states. Like, that's kind of cool. So anyway, it was really fun. This was one of the ones that I recorded during spring break. So this was about a month ago now. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I know I say that about all my interviews, and it's true. That's why I say it every time. So, yeah, anyway, but I want you to enjoy this one. Again, please leave a review if you so choose, preferably a 5-star review if you would like, please. And also get a hold of me on Twitter or Facebook. I friended a couple people this week on Facebook that I don't really know very well, but I can see that we are supposed to know each other because of all the friends we have in common. So those people, I really appreciate you. Again, not a lot to talk about this week, so why waste anybody's time? We are hitting the ground running really, really hard. Mandy Tapia is killing it right now, getting Texas Thespians like Summer PD done. There are 3 dates. I believe those have already been announced. I believe she sent out an email, but there's a Houston, Austin, but it's in Bastrop. The Houston one is at Atascocita High School. There's one in Bastrop, which is the Austin one, and then there's going to be one at FWAFA, the Fort Worth Academy of Fine Arts. I believe I got that right, up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So there are going to be 3 dates. Again, I think they're already announced. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there's 1 in June and 2 in July. So it's exciting, and we're getting that stuff going. I hope everybody joins us for that stuff. I hope you guys are able to do the Summerfest with TXETA. It's just things are starting to hopefully come back. So anyway, let's get to the interview. Again, I hope you enjoy this really fun interview with Larry Balfe.
I think probably almost everything about theater and one-act play in Texas all has happened to me by accident. It's all been a glorious, wonderful accident. I wasn't supposed to be in theater. My parents got married at a Air Force base, and I was born a year later, and in Topeka, Kansas. And then we moved around a lot because my dad was also a minor league baseball player. And back in the day, anybody that knows anything about baseball knows that they don't make any money playing minor league ball. So he did a lot of sales jobs, mostly selling encyclopedias, which was a good thing for my education because my mom made me read them all the time. And we moved around a lot, and we ended up in Texas, and we moved around a lot in Texas. And then we ended up in Houston, and I was going into the 8th grade. And it was the first time I ever got an elective. Everything else before that it was at a junior high. It was, they said, what do you want on this elective list? And I went, wood shop. That sounds great. And they said, that's full. And my dad looked at the sheet and said, put him in speech and drama. And I wasn't a happy camper about that. And I went, and I was at Black Junior High in Houston. And I had this amazing teacher. Her name was Anna Louise Bruner. And she had some very amazing students that went on to pretty big things. And I was in a musical. My first show was a musical. It was Carnival. And the lead in the musical was Patrick Swayze. And that tells you kind of like some of the amazing people that she had in the program. Then he went on to Waltrip High School. And I got kind of hooked. I started going to speech tournaments in 8th grade. And we had a citywide tournament. And I was doing dramatic, the yearling. And I got beat by this girl from MC Williams, one of Celie Turner's kids. Celie Turner, who just passed away a month or so ago. And I started watching his kids, and they were so professional and so prepared. And it was just fascinating to me. And then he kind of noticed me, when I was in the 9th grade, still in junior high. He was running a junior high, senior high program, which is unbelievable. No one would do that now. I mean, I know there are people that do that, but it's crazy to do that. And the city tournament the next year, I got second in dramatic at the city, doing The Button. And some people that have been around a long time know that script. And one of their girls won. I remember her. She was doing Death of Bessie Smith. It was amazing. And so I really got hooked and started doing plays. And then we moved again. And that was another accident. And I ended up at J. Frank Dobie High School in Pasadena. And I got in the theater program there. And I had a great speech teacher, Trish Boudra, and a really good guy, like a coach kind of guy, John Gordon, for a drama teacher. I was in a lot of plays, went to a lot of tournaments. And I was kind of in one act play. I was on the crew. Then I was like a little supporting character. And then I went to summer camp at Theater San Jacinto my junior year. And I was under Jerry Powell. And a lot of people on this site have been under Jerry Powell before at San Jack. A lot of my really great friends. And I started reading plays, which I'd really never done before. And I read this play called David and Lisa, and I decided to cut it for my senior project down to 40 minutes. And we did it in the fall. And then my teacher liked it. And so we did it for one act, and then we won district. First time in the history of the school. Of course, the school was only 4 years old. So, but still. And then I thought, well, this is it. I love it. I just really loved it so much. And then I went to college, and then it was kind of an accident to become a teacher because my principal at my senior year in high school gathered a bunch of us together and said, we're going to do Special Olympics for elementary kids this year. And it was really at the beginning of Special Olympics. And he said, I want all of you to be coaches, teachers for it. And so we didn't say no to the principal. And I met the most amazing kids that taught me way more than I could ever teach them. But it made me want to be a teacher. And so I went to college and I thought, no, not for teaching. No, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be a professional actor. But just in case that doesn't work out, I'll get a teaching degree. And I applied for a couple of jobs. Don't speak, Siri. I got a couple of job interviews, and I went to my first job interview at Eisenhower High School. And the principal there, Roy Smith, was talking to me. And then he said, well, let's go down and look at your room. And I was like, I don't know what he's saying. I don't understand this conversation. It's like my head was spinning, and he was showing me all this stuff and using the words like, this is your auditorium and this is your, and I was like, I never had a job interview before, so I didn't really understand. And at the end of that, he went, so we're going to send you over to sign a contract. And I thought that was pretty amazing. And I got paid $8,000 a year. And that seemed like a lot of money. In 1976, that was a lot of money. I mean, it was. And so then I stayed there for 9 years. And we ended up winning state in year 9. We'd been alternate before that. And then I got recruited to go somewhere else in the middle of the year because their teacher was leaving. And I really wanted to go to a bigger program, a bigger auditorium, all of that stuff. And my principal, Mr. Smith, said, we're going to let you go. We'll let you do it. You know, you've done a lot for us. We'll do this. So I did that. And then I was at that school for 2.5 years. And then I got the professional theater bug again, tried to do that, did it for a while, 3 years, full time. Then I went back to teaching, ended up at Terry High School in Rosenberg, because I had been working at the AD Players, a professional theater company in Houston, teaching classes and directing half of their main stage shows and acting in the other half. And somebody there said, oh, I hear you might want to go back into teaching. I work in that district. So I went out there and had an interview, and I've been lucky, I think accidentally lucky, to be hired at places, and it was a good thing. And so I stayed there for 9 years. And then my principal there said, we're opening a new school. I want you to come. So I went there and I stayed there for another 9 years at Foster High School, and went to state at both of those places. So then I decided after, 30 years, this is enough. But I still loved it so much. I started wanting to be an adjudicator, and I got a middle school adjudicating contest, which I loved. They're just amazing kids. They're so passionate about it. And then I got a clinic up in at North Lamar in Paris, because somebody else had to drop out. I'd never done a clinic before. We'd had some at our school, but I'd never done one myself. And so I went and did that, and I just loved it. So that's what I do now. I'm an adjudicator and a clinician, and I probably adjudicate and clinic about 40 schools a year. And it's still just as exciting as the first time I ever directed a play.
Yeah. And
I mean, I just love it.
what
There's
is
so much passion, commitment.
that's what I was going to say, is what is it about those? And you just answered it, the passion. And yeah.
It's seeing those kids tackle plays and deal with that literature, and their directors who want them to be so good.
Yeah.
And how much I know that they get out of it, because I know how much my ex-students got out of it. And no matter what profession they went into, some of the things that they learned by doing one act play, they still apply to the professions that they have today. So, and I'm still pretty good friends with some of them. And so I love walking in. It's so much easier to walk in as a clinician or even as an adjudicator than it ever was directing. Because no matter what problems they have getting there, no matter, what the personalities are, I get to walk out at the end of it.
Yeah.
But I can see their passion and their pain and their desire and their struggle. And I want to help them with that struggle. And that's my whole goal is I always say, I'm here to help you. And I finish by saying, I hope in some small way I've helped you to be better. And that's always my goal.
Yeah. Why do you think you had such quick success at like Eisenhower?
That's a good question. We we won district 8 out of 9 years. We went to region 8 out of my 9 years there. I think I had some good kids
Yeah.
that were really dedicated, and I think they wanted to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that's always a key for any program. The director wants to be successful, and then the kids want to be successful, and they bought in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they bought in, and we were fortunate. And actually, the play we won state with was another accident. We were supposed to be doing the Miser, and it was the first year of no pass, no play, and a couple of my kids didn't pass, 2 or 3,
Yeah.
and so I had to switch plays. And I had sent in this play called Total Abandon. It's about a man who beats his 2-year-old son to death, and I never thought they would approve it in a million years. And so then we had the failures, and they approved it, and so we did it 4 people.
Hmm. Okay. So another accident. Yeah.
It was an accident. Yeah, it really was.
As an adjudicator and or clinician, is there a show that you've seen over and over, but every time you see it, or most of the times you see it, surprises you of like, oh, I didn't think about maybe doing it this way or going that direction?
I think almost every show I see fits into that
Yeah.
category. I can see the same show like 20 or 30 times. I'm still excited about it the 30th time
Yeah.
as I was the first time. And it's always because I see something that I never saw before.
Right.
Either some way they're doing it, or some lines they've left in, or some lines they've cut, or some way of casting it. It's always feels
Fresh.
really unique and original and fresh to me. I'm never bothered by that. And I know some people are bothered by that,
Right.
seeing the same play over and over again. I never am. I love reading the new cuttings. I love seeing what they bring to it that I never thought of, or
Yeah.
I never saw anybody else do before. It always seems fresh, and it always seems new.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauties of a one act play is, from director to director, it might change. The story might even be a little different of whose story is being told too. So
I agree. The focus of
yeah.
the story has a tendency to sort of shift based on the director or the concept or whatever that they're going for.
Yeah.
But what the play's about still always has some kind of personal meaning to me.
Right.
I mean, I love plays.
Right.
I love plays. I love theater. So I've been going to New York, sadly, not this past year,
Right.
but I've been going to New York for like 30 or 40 years in a row. So, I love that. I mean, I've seen a chorus line, I think it's 7 or 8 times with original cast, replacement cast, traveling cast, and it always seems like an interesting show,
Yeah. Do
no matter what.
when you go to New York, do you try to hit straight plays or do you do musicals or both or just a mixture?
I do a mixture. The last time I was in New York, not to brag, but I did get to see the original cast of Hamilton before it became like everything. I mean, it was still expensive, but it was right before it became everything. And I saw that and Fun Home and The Curious Incident all the same weekend. So I really like to mix it up.
Right.
And I like off Broadway stuff too,
Right. That's
a
cool.
lot.
Yeah. Some of that off Broadway stuff actually can be just as good, if not better. I remember seeing a couple off Broadway shows that really moved me a lot more than even some of those, highly produced Broadway shows. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Because there's so much, it's the same kind of commitment that we have in
Yep.
one act play contests is kids or young adults or people who are so hungry to be on stage and to entertain people, to inform them, to move them, that it it really has an impact.
Right. Did you, not to switch subjects, but did you thank your dad, for pushing you towards taking theater as an elective? And I mean, do you
You
credit any
you
of
know,
that?
we did have that conversation.
Yeah.
Um, some much later than that.
Right.
He was not that involved in the theater process when I was in high school. And even when I was a director, he wasn't that involved. He had, his own thing he was
Right.
doing. But he did come to see my first play that won state, and he was it made me feel great how proud he was of it.
Yeah.
I haven't even said that to anybody before, so
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I have I'm a big baseball fan. So when you said that your dad was a minor league baseball player, if I grew up knowing my theater director's dad was actually this minor league baseball player, and because students always make assumptions about what their
For sure.
the backgrounds of their theater teachers. Uh, did your students know that your dad was, minor league baseball, although it is a large group of men that play it, it's still a very small percentage of the world. Did your students know that your dad was kind of a pretty good athlete?
I've talked to them about that
Yeah.
before, and generally just in use of terms of it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, you
Right.
can still, and that there's similarities between being an athlete and being an actor are amazing. And there are a lot of people that don't like those comparisons, but I always felt very comfortable in the athletic world. And I think it showed a lot in the programs that I was in. I had always had a lot of boys that were in sports. I
Right.
mean, they used to come off the football field and come over to rehearsal. When we were at Region, one time we had to take a boy and a girl who were in the regional tennis tournament. We had to drop them off on the bus, go to our rehearsal, come back and pick them up. I mean, I always had a lot of athletes in my
Yeah.
program. So I think I like that kind of dedication
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think it's similar.
Do you still have any interest in like a wood shop type thing, or is that something that was just on the list and it?
not not too good at making things.
Yeah.
No, I found out real quickly I'm not that good at doing those. I always find people though that are very
Right.
good at it.
Are you good at, there are some directors that are very good at saying, here's what I want and explaining, and there's some that write it down and they're, what's kind of your style of relaying information to a technician or designer to make sure your show looks the way you want it to look?
It's kind of a little of both. I will tell you that in professional theater, when I was working in that, it was I completely didn't understand the process at all because they all came into the first meeting with all of their ideas and stuff, and I wasn't used to that at all. But I can draw little things, but they're not very good
Right.
on a napkin or something.
Right.
I used to draw it. We would go to some restaurant and just draw our little ideas
Right.
down, and uh, then I would talk about them to whoever was tech director, and they usually came out way better than the drawing. So
Good. So another thing that you said that made my ears perk up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said you did carnival when you were in 8th grade?
yeah, we had this amazing teacher, Anna Louise Bruner. She had
Yeah.
this great relationship with Sakowitz, which was one of the biggest department stores in Houston.
Yeah.
And the people there that did all the design, she was friends with. They came in and did our sets for our
Wow.
shows. And we did Carnival and Annie Get Your Gun.
Wow.
And those are the only two I was
Yeah.
involved in. But they did a lot of I mean, pretty big musicals for 8th grade,
Yeah. Yeah.
ninth grade.
What
That's what we
middle
we were
school?
seventh, eighth, and ninth grade.
What middle school was it?
It was Black Junior High,
Oh, okay. Okay. That's
and
yeah,
it's still
that's
there.
yeah, it's still around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I went to Welch with Gail Silver, and
Oh yeah.
she was really well known for doing these for middle school, rather large. I mean, she did 42nd Street in middle school, um,
Okay,
which,
that's amazing.
yeah, which is still nuts to me. But yeah, Carnival, just the story of Carnival too for middle school uh, it's a strong story. So that's why I was asking.
Well, she did have. I mean, she did have Patrick Swayze, and even at 13, I could look up at him at 15 and go, "There's something special about him as a
Yeah,
performer." And his mother was what she helped choreograph the musical because she taught. She had a dance studio down the
yeah,
street,
right,
and so a lot of us took classes there, and so it felt very professional
right,
at a very young age. We had a full scale orchestra. I mean, it was. I think that makes a huge difference
right. Yeah.
in how you see things.
My mother knew Patrick Swayze as well, so didn't go to school with
Okay,
him.
that's that. I don't think I need to know that your mother and I are the same age, but
Well, yeah, there were a couple of, Quaid brothers, Patrick Swayze,
yes,
trying to think of, Spiner, Brent Spiner, right? Is
yes,
that
they all went to U of H.
yeah,
Those three did. They went to U of H.
yeah. So that was, my mom talks highly of that kind of core group of people that kind of came out of that time, you know?
Yeah, they're all a little older than me, but they all a lot of those people you're talking about went to Bel Air,
Yes,
and when the Bel Air program was being run by Cecil Pickett
yes,
before he went to University of Houston,
yes,
and they had so many amazing kids
yeah.
come out of that program.
It's crazy how, you look at certain programs, and you look at, generations and such, and the names that are still synonymous with like fame and fortune, or not fortune necessarily, but I don't know if Brent Spiner's living on a yacht anywhere, but uh but
Maybe,
maybe with the Star Trek
unless they're
name.
doing Star Trek Next Generation
Yeah.
again,
Yeah, right.
which they might
So,
be.
but anyway, it's crazy to me to think of those. I try to think of my generation, and if there are any of those names, and there are a handful. I went to school with Beyonce, so that's my there you go. That's my Patrick
Okay,
Swayze.
well, yeah, I think that pretty much that's pretty up there
Yeah,
for
that gets
sure.
that gets up there. So, what do you do? Like, what is a hobby that Larry does now, that kind of keeps you busy, passes the time? Because the one act play season is just that, a season. So, what are you doing in between those times?
Well, I feel like I'm busier than I've ever been in my whole life,
Really
honestly,
good.
other than doing one act play from January through May. I play a lot of softball.
Oh,
That's still in my genes.
yeah.
I play a lot of tennis. Probably 3 times a week, I play tennis, and I'm still at a pretty high level. And I travel a lot. I own a property in Palm Springs that I rent.
Okay.
So I'm very busy, and I teach 6 to 8 hours every week of public speaking.
Right. Have you been able to teach more now, that you can zoom in, or do it virtually, or is it still about the same?
It's about the same right now,
Okay.
although a couple of other opportunities have come up lately about Zooming. I just haven't been able to do them because of one at play season.
Sure.
But I teach at a school in Chicago, which is where I'm currently located,
Right.
and which is a great theater town. And so I was teaching out in the suburbs at a Chinese school out there, and but now we've been online since for a year. We've
Okay.
been online, so my classes have been reduced to 6 hours instead of 10.
Okay.
So, but it's still great, and it's pretty awesome to work with these students that are junior high and high school kids who are so smart
Yeah.
and who have such a great understanding of the dilemmas and problems of the world, and they have good solutions and they want to be involved.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do. They're pretty amazing. I learn something every week
Yeah.
from them.
So, and you also spoke on, Special Olympics. So, have you done anything since that time? Have you been able to, like, even like inclusion theater, or anything like that? Have you been a part of that, or wanted to be, or
I would love to see. I've seen some inclusion
yeah,
theater, and I would love to have been part of that. It just kind of slipped out of my fingers. And you know what the
yeah,
time like is. being a high school theater teacher. It just gets away from you. And we had some kids in the program that were, kids that we were part of inclusion programs. But as a whole, no, I haven't been part of it. But I respect it, and I've seen some productions of it where people were used that were, people who were inclusion, handicapped, whatever, and they're amazing kids. And amazing people. It takes a lot of.
Did you see the new
a
Oklahoma?
lot of energy.
Did you see the new Oklahoma on Broadway?
I did not see it, but I saw several scenes on it, and that
crazy.
girl was amazing.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't, and I think that that's such a great way for theater to go, to try to reach out to so many different people. And I've seen quite a few productions of high school one-act plays that have used sign language, have used people in, and used their disabilities or their capabilities and use them in really positive ways that makes the play stand out even in a much stronger way.
Right. Yeah. It's something I took part in a theater company called Dionysus Theater while it was open. Yeah. And it's insane there has been this kind of like culture that hasn't included handicapped kids and handicapped students, and handicap is a broad definition, but and the talent, it's just insane. But to think that somebody,
I think
blind, go ahead.
I think you're so right about that, and I think it's exciting to see more and more theater companies and more high schools including people that we should have been including all along.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to, again, completely switch gears because this is how my brain works. I did an interview earlier today where I said, I don't know, I might talk about cheese at some point. My brain just, goes sometimes.
Cheddar, Colby Jack,
okay,
jalapeno pepper, and Gouda.
Which cheddar though?
Sharp.
Okay, I wasn't intending to talk about cheese, but I like it. Now, if we're gonna go the cheese route, okay, there are different types of way to, like, what do you want on your pizza? What do you want on your hamburger? And what do you want on a Philly cheesesteak? Are three different things. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's totally true. The cheese really depends. I was just talking about cheese by itself,
right,
maybe with some crackers and a beverage.
Okay. I did not think we would go down the cheese route, but I'm glad.
Sorry, I think I took your bait and went down there.
Well, if you're in Chicago right now, which one of the two deep dish pizza places would you go to? Or they're, the across the street rivals?
What are the two cross the street rivals?
Hold on. I say it and I
Illuminati's.
Yeah, Illuminati's and Geno's.
Okay, I like both of them.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna make a bold prediction that could get me kicked out of this
town.
Nobody
in Chicago's listening, so
that's good. And now Detroit pizza is making a little inway here too.
Yes. But it's not deep though. It's not a deep dish.
It's square.
Yes, it's a square pizza. That's right. And it's even it has started to infiltrate even like fast. I use quotes with fast food, but fast food pizza places, like the Pizza Hut and Domino's and stuff. They do this square pizza now.
There's a lot of pizza places in Chicago. There are more Starbucks, CVS, Baskin and Robbins, Dunkin' Donuts. There's one on almost every corner of those things. You cannot walk out the door. There's half a block from me. There's a Dunkin' Donuts to the left, half a block to the right.
So if we're going to stay on this food thing, because since you're a Houstonian, do you know where I'm going? Do you know what?
I hope you're going to some Tex-Mex food.
No. I wouldn't. No, that doesn't. I was going to ask if you are a Dunkin' Donut or Shipley's.
Okay, I grew up over off of North Main, in the up Northern Heights, and Shipley's Donuts is still there.
Yeah.
on North Main, and we used to go there on Saturdays, and we could get a dozen donuts or a dozen Day-O donuts for 75 cents.
Wow.
So I would always be a Shipley's over a Dunkin' Donut.
And they're still not that expensive, but 75 cents for a dozen, I mean, that would be, I would not, I wouldn't be sitting here probably right now if that was,
Who could turn that down, right?
right,
I mean,
right.
no.
Yeah, right. Well, that was fun. Um, so I want to go back to the one act play stuff. It's been, somewhat, I don't want to say controversial this year about one act play, but there have been two sides of the camp of should we or shouldn't we do it. I want you to sell. I did this with Luis Munoz, and this obviously was before there was a pandemic, and so the opinion. Oh, there's my Alexa. My Alexa's telling my daughter who's not here right now to get off the iPad. So anyway,
That's good that you have it set up that way, though.
yes. Well,
I need to do that with my dog.
yeah, right. You got to do something. Alexa, stop. Okay, so what a lighthearted way to get into this. So with one act play, there's certain camps that think we shouldn't, and certain camps that think we shouldn't have competed this year. I want you to sell the camp that says we shouldn't have on why we should have competed this year with one act play, and why it's important for these kids to get out there, why it's important for the director's well-being as well, to just do theater. Because I'll be honest, I'll be completely transparent. I flip-flopped when we walked in August and September, and then back face to face in October. I said, "There's no way I'm doing one act play. I'm not doing it face to. We're not doing it this year. There's no reason to compete." And I changed. I changed my mind as I saw the kids starting to be disappointed with the idea of not doing it, and then excited when we did, and when we cast the show, and when we started rehearsing, and just they needed it. It wasn't about me. I had to switch my mindset and not be selfish. So maybe I just sold it, but I want to hear Larry's side of the importance of it and what it brings to a department and students and teachers and everything.
Well, I can't sell anybody on anything, but I could just tell you how it feels to me. I was at a contest last March 12th or 13th, whatever day it was, and it was down in Laredo. And I was watching some wonderful plays, and the three judges, and we were separated. We were all watching. And about the second or third play, either somebody from their, on their phone, or the contest manager had come in and said something like, the NCAA basketball tournament's canceled. And then another play happened, and somebody looked at their phone and said, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo was canceled. And it started to dawn on me as I was watching the last two or three plays that this was the only performance that these kids were ever going to do at this play. And it felt bad. It felt bad. And you could feel them during the critiques have some kind of understanding that a problem was coming and that things might not be what we have always had. And so I got on a plane the next day and flew back to Chicago, and it was sad to me. And all my contests were canceled. The rest of my season was canceled, and there was a loss there. And I know that there's a struggle to do the right thing, and I want people to always do the right thing, and I want them to feel safe, and I want them to feel secure about what they're doing. But I think we needed this contest to happen. I think adjudicators needed it. I think the kids need it. I think the directors need it. We need to produce live. This is what we do. We produce live theater, and Broadway needs it. I have a lot of former students that are in New York, and they are broke and sad. And so I did a contest last week, and it was up in Waco. Larry Carpenter, a great contest manager. It felt so safe. and everybody wore masks, and it just felt like we were back. Maybe not back completely the way we want to be, but back in some way. And I know there's probably people who are flipping off your channel right now and saying that I'm an idiot, and I'm okay with that. Everybody has to do what they have to do what's best for them. And I know some schools have pulled out, and I know some people don't care what happens, and that's okay too. But just producing the theater is the most important part for the kids. And I think we have to do it for the kids. And when I did my clinics this year, and I could just feel the energy from the students. Like we're hungry for what you have to say about us. We're hungry to make this play happen, to make it good, to make it better, to reach out to people in the world with the message that we have. And I think that that's needed right now. We've gone through a rough 4 years, but we've definitely gone through a rough year. And I think it gives us hope.
Yeah.
Sorry. I completely understand the people that are afraid. I really do.
Yeah.
I've been afraid.
So at this point, I actually stopped the conversation with Larry and thought we were done, but he had mentioned that he wanted to tell a story about being a Vietnam story, pretty much, with protesters and things like that. And he mentioned that he wanted to just kind of share this story, and why not? I've had this happen a couple times, but through fancy editing, I was able to kind of weave it into the conversation, and you never knew. This one, not so much. So I'm just going to be honest. And here is the remainder of our conversation with a fun little story from Larry.
So
I don't know. It's kind of interesting, though.
yeah, so one act play in the 70s with Vietnam protesters. I mean, the floor is yours again.
Well, I had this great drama teacher who really wanted us to be better. And so he took 4 or 5 of us to the state meet in like 71. And there were protesters out in front of Hogg, which is where we used to have it, protesting the Vietnam War. And we had to walk through them to get into Hogg. It was a pretty interesting experience. And I was not that politically relevant at the time, or know that much, but then it made me actually start reading about the war. And anybody that actually knows me knows I've done a lot of war plays, including several one acts that were set in Vietnam. But back in those days, it was at Hogg, and they had like one school from each region went to state. One. So our school was at region that year in 4A, because we didn't have 5 or 6. And there were 9 schools at region. 9 districts went to region, 1 school went to state. And so when we went, we saw like A in the morning, all 4 of them, and then 2A in the afternoon. And I had never been to an auditorium that big before. I had never seen the state meet before. And I saw a Jerry Worsham production, and I was like mesmerized by it. And I saw comedies that were amazing and by well-known directors. And I just thought this was the greatest thing ever. It made me really want to be part of it in such an important way, because I just felt like I felt at home. I felt at home, maybe for the first time in my life, honestly. Like, this is where I belong. And I think part of my directing style was much a reflection of some of those shows that I saw in the 70s, all the way through. I mean, I've seen every year practically the state, champion. And I would see a Jerry Worsham play, and I'd go, okay, I'm never going to direct that play, because I can never direct it like that. I can never direct anything that looks like that. Can never be. So I did minimal stuff because I could not do big costumes and royalty. But I appreciate it. I couldn't do a comedy like my great friend from Gregory Portland. I mean, she is like the queen of comedy. And I would see her shows and I would go, I could never do that. But I could see it and go, that's the best play here.
Yeah.
And so I think I learned a lot about what I could do based on what I knew I couldn't do.
Right.
Which is also kind of an accident, I think, because I would watch those shows and be so in awe of what they were capable of doing. And then we moved to the university and how huge that stage was and how you had to fill that auditorium. When we went to state, we had 4 people, and we had just seen, I think the third play that day was Tom Jones from Luis Munoz and San Antonio MacArthur, and people were rolling in the aisles. I mean, it was so hilarious. Paula Rodriguez was in that show.
Yeah.
That's how I first knew of who she was. And I thought, wow, we're never going to be able to match up to that. I mean, it was just, I didn't know if we could even fill this space with 4 people. I mean, we managed to do it, but it was so wonderful to see all that variety of theater.
Right.
And to be able to appreciate that even as I was growing up and even as I was a young director, it just inspired me to continue to try to be better all the time.
Yeah.
But the Vietnam thing was a little scary.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine, I've never been a part of a protest. The closest I've been was in Montreal about 10 years ago. I happened to be in Montreal and there were the protests there, and I happened to be going to dinner and just walking through, excuse me.
That happened to me here in Chicago too.
Yeah.
I was walking out of a grocery store and got in the middle of a Black Lives Matter protest. Yeah. So I just went with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Carrying my groceries and yelling whatever they were yelling. I was like fine with that. But I think I was a lot younger.
Right.
In 1971 when these protesters were, trying to get us out of Vietnam, stop the war.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, I had a ping pong ball number to be drafted.
Right.
I was the last group that had a ping pong ball number. And a friend of mine actually was drafted from that same group. So, I mean, it's a different world then, for sure.
Yeah.
And sort of scary.
Yeah.
My parents were not happy with me either, because I was like, well, if I get drafted, I'm not going. My dad was like, oh, you're going. He was in the military. I was going to be in the military too. Yeah. So yeah, it's a different world for sure.
Yeah.
But we still went. Theater still happened.
Yep.
And I think that's really important at this time, the world we're living in right now. Theater still happened then, and it can still happen now. We just have to change it a little.
Minor